My name is Emily. Lately, because of static electricity, my hair constantly sticks to my face, making me look like the protagonist of a horror movie like The Ring or The Grudge, and I really want to do something about it as a 38-year-old. I know it's because I'm always wearing fleece material or something like that. But it's gotten so cold all of a sudden. I feel like I'm dressed like an Eskimo. Today, I want to share a winter story of mine. I hope you'll listen. I had a childhood friend who grew up with me since I was 4 years old. Her name was Kathy. When I was 4, her family moved next door, and since our parents were the same age, we naturally became close as families. When she was young, Kathy was shy and quiet. However, as she entered the upper grades of elementary school, her reserved nature began to change. To be honest, even from my perspective as her friend, Kathy was remarkably cute. My mom even jokingly suggested to Kathy's mom, why not make her a child actress? When she was little, being called cute didn't boost her confidence. However, by the time they reached the upper grades of elementary school, children are already becoming quite the ladies. They start to understand how their cuteness can be a powerful tool. In fact, once the other girls realized how cute Kathy was, they gathered around her like an entourage. They started imitating her hairstyle and wearing the same hair ties, creating many a Kathy clones. In the class, she was as popular as a teen idol. As she was showered with attention, Kathy gradually became more spoiled. When playing with others, she would get very grumpy if she wasn't the center of attention, and would sometimes be slightly mean to her friends. Looking back now, I realize it wasn't unusual for kids to act like that, but at the time, it was a bit of a hassle. When we got to middle school, Kathy became even more beautiful. She grew taller, and her school uniform looked dazzling on her, as if she was the only one wearing a different one. On the other hand, I was short and my uniform seemed to be wearing me rather than the other way around. Naturally, she became part of the cute girls group, and was at the top of the class hierarchy. Around this time, boys who used to mock the Kathy clones started sweetly calling out to her. Everyone was becoming aware of their own boy and girl asides. She rode that wave perfectly and became known as Glamour Queen. Why Glamour Queen, you ask? Because after school, she was always getting confessions of love in the backyard. She was seen so often that she eventually got a nickname because of it. Her spoiled behavior escalated along with her popularity. She would look down on students who didn't seem popular, and laugh at them behind their backs. Well, almost all the top caste students had that vibe, but Kathy was particularly proactive about it. Back then, there was a weird notion that the more noticeable you are, the cooler it is to look down on others. As for me, I was more into comics and games than fashion or the opposite sex, so I lived a very different life from Kathy, along with friends who shared my interests. However, Kathy never looked down on or treated me poorly. No matter how small or nerdy I was, she would come to me with her romantic troubles, saying, "Emily, listen to this," without any hesitation. She didn't look down on my friends either. So, while I did think her behavior towards others was awful, I never came to dislike Kathy herself. Thus, we peacefully spent our middle school days and eventually went to different high schools and colleges. I went to college out of state, so when I met Kathy again at our first reunion, we partied until morning with canned drinks. Even after a long time apart, we were still close. I thought it was a privilege of childhood friends. The problem arose 10 years ago. At that time, after graduating from college, I returned to my hometown and worked for a local company. I introduced my boyfriend, John, a doctor I met through an acquaintance, to my parents to get their approval for us living together. And at the doorstep, I ran into Kathy. "Hey, is this your boyfriend?" Kathy asked. Feeling a bit embarrassed, I answered, "Yeah." After staring at John for a moment, Kathy smiled and said, "I didn't know. You have to introduce him to me next time," and walked away. That night, she contacted me for the first time in a while, and I ended up actually introducing her to John. Since John and I were living together with marriage in mind, I thought it would be good to introduce him to my childhood friend. So, I immediately arranged for John and Kathy to meet. A few days later, the three of us met at a cafe. When John stepped away from the table, Kathy suddenly said, "Oh no." "What? What's wrong?" I asked, puzzled. Kathy then said, "I think I might have fallen for John." I thought she was joking, but Kathy was gazing at John with such dreamy eyes that I wouldn't have been surprised if hearts were floating around her. She laughed it off, saying, "Don't worry, I won't steal anyone's boyfriend. It's just like having a crush on an idol." But I was so uneasy that I didn't leave the table for the rest of the time. I thought that if I left them alone, who knows what might happen. A while after that introduction, I saw Kathy and John walking arm in arm in the city. Neither John nor Kathy had mentioned they were going out together. Was he cheating on me? Or maybe they were planning a surprise for me. I swung between the worst-case scenario and hopeful thinking, as I found myself sprinting to catch up with them. Gasping for breath, all I could manage to say when I caught up to them was, "Why are you two together?" I remember the startled looks from people around us. "We got caught," Kathy said with a tongue-in-cheek smile, while John turned pale. When I confronted them, they admitted it was their first date. Apparently, Kathy had asked John for his contact information when I went to the bathroom during that introduction. It was just before I heard, "I might have fallen for you," after arriving at the store. Kathy, who fell in love with John almost at first sight, got his contact information by saying, "Let's just be friends for now," and grew to like him more as they talked. John also responded with, "If you have any worries, feel free to talk to me," and they exchanged contact information. He planned to ask her how to propose in a way that would make me happy. However, Kathy was after John, and it didn't turn into a genuine consultation. Gradually, she made her moves. Kathy was really cute, after all. If she confessed her feelings, John wouldn't be entirely indifferent. And so, John fell right into Kathy's trap. John begged for my forgiveness, saying, "It was the first and last mistake, I won't do it again," but I couldn't forgive him. Even if it was just a date. Meanwhile, Kathy whispered to John, "Why don't you just stay with me? An important childhood friend and a beloved partner I was considering marriage with." After being so deeply betrayed, I didn't want to see either of them. I decided to cut ties with Kathy and break up with John, right then and there. About 9 months later, I got an invitation from a junior high school classmate. We're having a reunion for our sophomore class. I was in a different class from Kathy in sophomore year. I thought I could enjoy it and decided to go, but on the day, I was stunned. The class clown had invited Kathy, who was from another class, saying, "I called our glamour queen, Kathy." The students who were in the same activity as Kathy, or in the same class in freshman or senior year were thrilled to see this rare guest, but I couldn't be happy at all. Despite that, everyone around me said, "Hey, it's the old childhood friend duo. Sit next to each other and put our seats together." Well, they didn't know the whole story, so I couldn't blame them. Honestly, I wanted to say, "I cut ties with her because she stole my boyfriend, so please keep her away from me." But I didn't want to ruin the fun reunion for those who didn't know. In the end, I spent the reunion I had been looking forward to with a sour face, sitting next to the Kathy I despised. "So, Emily, what do you do for work now?" "Me? I work as an office clerk at a local company." "Really? Didn't you go to college in New York? Wouldn't you have made more money if you worked there?" "Well, yeah, but I'm an only child, so I decided to stay close to my parents for their care." While I was having such a conversation with an old friend, Kathy suddenly butted in. "What? So that's why you still dress so shabby even after working for years? No wonder you look poor." It's no surprise that a vein bulged on my temple at Kathy's snide comment, acting as if nothing had happened despite our fallout. My old friend turned pale, looking at Kathy as if to say, "That's so out of line." Of course, I ignored her. Sensing the tense atmosphere, my old friend quickly changed the subject. "So, Kathy, what are you up to these days?" "Me? I work in sales at a local company, but I'm making pretty good money. My boyfriend said we'll get married soon, so my future is secure." "Wow, you have a boyfriend? What does he do? Do you have any pictures?" My old friend, unaware of the situation, took an interest in Kathy's words. While they couldn't know any better. It was an unbearable topic for me, despite having moved on. Kathy, knowing this, gleefully said, "Oh, really?" and showed the photo stored on her phone to my old friend. Wow, as expected of Kathy. Your boyfriend is handsome. What does he do? Thanks. He's a doctor. His annual income is over $100,000, so I'll probably quit my job when we get married. That's amazing. Every woman's dream, right? Isn't it? Oh, Emily, do you have a boyfriend? Holding the picture of John, the boyfriend she took from me, Kathy smirked as she turned the conversation back to me. Oh, that's right. Emily, do you have a boyfriend? My old friend asked, as if suddenly remembering. To my old friend, who thought the tense atmosphere was due to Kathy's slip-up, it seemed like the awkwardness had subsided. Ignoring the question would only make things awkward for my old friend. Ruining the atmosphere at the reunion, my first-class reunion for the sophomore class, would be too much. Reluctantly, I smiled and said, "No, I don't have a boyfriend." What? Isn't it about time you got married if you want kids? Are you still single? Kathy eagerly jumped in. My old friend turned pale again. Too bad, being both poor and single. Oh, I'm so glad I caught a boyfriend with an annual income of over $100,000. Hearing stories like this makes me realize how lucky and happy I am. Oh really? So I'm unlucky and miserable, huh? Judging by her smug and condescending attitude, she really doesn't know anything. I wanted to say, that guy is. But I swallowed my words. No, I'll keep quiet for her sake. Let her stay in her illusion of happiness. In the end, I went home from the reunion with all those words left unspoken. However, I wasn't jealous at all of Kathy's bragging, so I didn't feel frustrated. About 2 years later. To my surprise, Kathy suddenly showed up at my parents' house. What do you want? I asked. Give me my money back. Kathy screamed furiously. I had never borrowed money from Kathy, so I had no idea what she was talking about. What on earth was going on? Wait a minute. What money? I don't remember borrowing any money from you. Don't play dumb. It's the $600,000 you took from John. Huh? Took money from John? Me? I had no idea what she was talking about. According to Kathy, when they were about to get married, John told her he had debt. And he claimed that the debt was because of my extravagant spending when we were dating. Because of that debt, he couldn't marry Kathy. No. It's not possible for an ordinary woman's extravagant spending to create a debt of $600,000. If I had been spending enough to put someone in debt, I'd be decked out in brand name clothes by now. Ah, I see. Kathy still doesn't know the truth. As a kind childhood friend, I'll enlighten her about everything. Do you really think that debt was caused by my extravagant spending? John himself said so, there's no other reason. Because of you, I can't get married. Enough is enough. Hey, has John been working more night shifts lately? Huh? Why do you? Well, even if that's true, so what? Well, it's not my business. Sorry. Forget I said anything. Now, please leave. When I casually backed off, Kathy let out a small, "What?" and openly grimaced. Oh, come on. Yes, he's been working more night shifts. So what? He's in demand, so of course he's busy. I couldn't help but grin at Kathy's words. What if I told you he's in demand by a girl and a bar owner? What? What are you talking about? I mean, the people expecting John at night aren't his medical colleagues, but the owner of a bar and his favorite girl there. What does that mean? Are you saying he's been going to a luxury bar instead of working night shifts? Bingo. The moment I said that, Kathy's face turned red with anger. I don't know if you're jealous because I took your man, but stop making things up. She shouted. But unfortunately for her, it wasn't a lie. John, being a doctor, often went to bars with his colleagues and superiors under the guise of relieving stress. This had been happening since we were dating. Well, I guess that's how wealthy people play. Or something like that. But since it was just drinking with girls, I didn't think much of it. For example, if I frequented a bar and fell for one of the barkeepers, I'd realize, it's just business, and snap out of it. I knew John wasn't that foolish, and he always kept clear boundaries. Once, John visited a bar where my friend was working, and I heard he barely engaged in any physical contact because he said he had a girlfriend. So, I never worried about him cheating or getting too attached to the girls at the club. It's like buying a lottery ticket despite hating gambling. A bit of fun as long as it doesn't go too far. However, after we broke up, a mutual acquaintance who introduced me to John shared this. His new girlfriend is very controlling. That was Kathy. Kathy demanded constant communication even during work hours, and insisted that they spend all their free time together. At work, John faced patients, subordinates, and colleagues all day, and at home, Kathy's controlling behavior. He never had a moment to himself. There was no mental respite. He couldn't go out drinking with colleagues like he used to. He couldn't relieve his stress. But his peers constantly nagged him, "Come on, let's go out." John wanted to go out too. He only declined out of consideration for Kathy. But when the stress became unbearable, it's no surprise that he ended up thinking, just for today, and went to the bar. He had no relief in his life. That visit to the bar brought immense relief and fun. John then became more deeply involved with the night scene than ever before. Amidst his guilt, the charming girls at the bar who validated him became his solace, and he started getting attached. This attachment to a girl at the bar was the reason behind John's rapid accumulation of debt, despite his high income. After hearing everything, Kathy was trembling. "That's a lie. No way. No way that's true. We're planning to get married. And anyway, it makes sense to trust John, who I've promised a future with, over someone like you." Kathy stubbornly held on to the belief that I was a nasty person who had taken John's money. What a sad story. John was just a guy I dated for a few years, but I've known Kathy since childhood, even if we had a falling out. Well, fine, you don't have to believe me. It doesn't affect me. As if I'd believe such a ridiculous story. Alright, I get it. But look at this. I showed her a video. No doubt it's John, but you don't have to believe it if you don't want to. What? Kathy watched the video, unable to help herself from speaking up. No wonder. The video showed a very drunk John, beaming with a flashy-haired girl. The dim purple lighting made it clear this was a bar. It was unmistakably a scene from That Kind of Place. The girl looked uncomfortable in front of the camera, clearly annoyed by being filmed. However, John was too drunk to notice, with a dazed, drunken expression on his face. The person filming also giggled, hehehehe, making me wonder how they hadn't been banned from the bar yet. Probably because they paid well. No wonder he ended up in debt. This video was given to me by the acquaintance who introduced John, saying, "Things have gotten really bad lately. Good thing you broke up." The acquaintance was a medical school graduate. Both the person filming and John were friends of this acquaintance, so it was meant as a joke when I received it. And that's how it ended up with me. It's a scary age where there are cameras everywhere. Not being able to get married isn't about the debt. With his income, he could pay it off if he really tried. The real reason is, he's probably into this girl. I said with a smirk, and Kathy screamed, "That's a lie," as tears welled up in her eyes. But we're supposed to get married. I'm already over 30. I need to get married soon. It can't be true. Well, if you don't worry about income levels, there are plenty of guys out there. You're cute, after all. Shut up. I'm special and I'm not going to settle for someone beneath me. That's why high-level guys are avoiding marrying you for low-level reasons. Ha. As Kathy looked puzzled, I told her, "You need to raise both your physical and emotional level. Or you'll end up in the same situation no matter who you date." Shut up. What do you know, poor, single woman? I've been working towards marriage all this time. You can't understand my pain. She was still playing the victim after stealing my boyfriend. People like her never change. Okay. Fine, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I'm getting married, so I don't care about my past boyfriends or being single. Besides, I have to get back to my boyfriend soon. I'm just here to pack for the move. It's his birthday today, and I need to cook a feast for him. As I waved her away and spoke with a straight face, Kathy screamed, "What?" At her scream, Kathy's mother came out from the neighboring house, saying, "I thought I recognized that voice. What are you doing here?" Kathy is currently living with John, having moved out of her parents' house. She probably hadn't informed them she was coming here today. "Auntie, Kathy stole my boyfriend and now she's accusing me of making him go into debt and demanding money back," I shouted. Kathy's face turned pale as her mother looked shocked. "What are you talking about? Is that true? What did you do to Emily? Come here and explain yourself." Kathy, who tried to accuse me, was no match for her mother. She was dragged back inside the house without a chance to defend herself. Later, I heard her mother yelling, "What kind of daughter are you?" from their house. After I returned to my boyfriend's place, my mother told me, Kathy's mother came over with Kathy to apologize. Kathy had been severely scolded, and her eyes were swollen from crying. My mother, who knew nothing about what happened between John, Kathy, and me, was shocked by the whole thing. Kathy's mother is a former martial art champion, and she's really scary when she's mad. I once got in trouble as a child for a prank and cried so hard when she scolded me. After that, Kathy's parents got angry, saying, "We won't approve of you marrying a man who easily switches women." And she ended up breaking up with John. Her mother then stripped her of all her savings and other assets, telling her to straighten up. She was ordered to send all her earnings, except for rent, utilities, and a fixed living expense set by her mother, to her parents for the next 10 years. She was not allowed to return home and was put in a 30-year-old apartment with shared bathrooms, to live there and reflect on her actions. A mutual friend who happened to see Kathy said, "Kathy, who used to be so cute, now has dark circles under her eyes and looks like a different person." Her mother checks on her regularly, so she can't do anything bad. In such a situation, no matter how cute Kathy is, romance is out of the question. By taking my boyfriend, she had also distanced herself from new relationships. Meanwhile, I got married to my new boyfriend as planned and had a son. He comes home covered in mud every day, and cleaning the entryway makes me cry, but I'm delighted by his daily growth. I can't say I never think about what life would have been like if I married John, but I'm glad I chose this life. Being a doctor's wife would mean frequent home parties and a rigid lifestyle. Now, as the wife of an ordinary office worker, I find that a normal life suits me and is very comforting. I've realized that being ordinary is also quite challenging as an adult. I hope that my family can continue living a normal life. That's my prayer.